Good morning. April 23rd, morning milking. It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're staying home, getting some farm chores done, making sure everything's ready. We had our first batch of chicks hatch out over the weekend. And so part of today's chores will be to get their areas prepped up, get them moved in, put water, feed, hang heat lamps. We'll be storing them in, we have a small studio, so we have a small studio space that we'll be storing them in. It's unheated, but it's away from the elements. We'll have the heat lamps, that'll keep good. And they're a hardy chick, so we don't anticipate any issues, and we haven't had any issues with that in the past. So. Plus, it looks like we're over the bit of colder weather that we've been having, and we'll be getting some nice weather now, so it's not too much of a concern having the chicks up in the artisan studio until they get big enough that we can move them outside. I signed up for Etsy a couple weeks ago, well, probably more than a month and a half ago now that I think about it, and we've had a little bit of activity at the beginning, and we just had 2 more sales, so I put my blacksmithing stuff on there. We've been selling our small hooks, and I just sold a necklace that I've made up, which is really awesome. It's a horseshoe made from an old barn nail. And so that was the first one I've kind of made of that, and that sold this morning. But I've sold quite a few, probably 15 of the hooks that I make, the smaller hooks out of barn nails. They're fairly cheap and they seem to go well, which seems to be the trick with Etsy. Smaller items do better than larger items. So. Last night's milking yielded 1.8 liters. It was a little less than we've been getting the past couple days, but it's a good sign that the calf is eating enough, which is good. I've watched her nurse a few times, but it's a good indicator if you can have an idea of how much your cow is normally producing, and you're able to keep track of that and knowing when the calf is nursing lots and not. And that's nice. So looks like this morning's milking will be a full milking. And we'll have to do twice a day milking for the next 2 or 3 months until the calf is large enough that we can switch to a once a day milking and have her spend half the day in a separate field or paddock, and then the cow and the calf can be together in the evening. Yeah, this is going to be a really good milking. I'm guessing this is going to be a 4 or a little less than 4 liter milking off of 3 teats, which is perfect. We're only doing 3 of the quarters right now because we're still milking this one out in a separate pail because it was one that had a bit of mastitis, environmental mastitis, right at the beginning of, or right after the calf had birth. So we've been feeding that to the pig, but the fridge is already getting too full, and we'll have to start making cheeses and butters, creams, yogurts, which I'm excited for. So that's some of the best part about having a family milking cow. That's actually a much better view. Yeah, that's a better view. I'm trying out a not using the microphone. I have a microphone that I would attach externally, but I found the volume wasn't very loud. So I'm trying the built-in microphone that comes with the camera, and we'll see how that works. And I'll decide which one I'd like to keep. I'm going to try to start streaming to a platform called Periscope. It was recommended to me, and I'm just learning the live streaming process and how it all works, and which platforms are best, and which ones can cross-share, and what features, etc. So I'm going to try that out tonight for this evening's milking, and we'll see how that takes. I've been saving the streams at the end and uploading them to YouTube for people to check out there. I've also done a little bit of editing and post-production for a little bit of music. My friend Trevor made us a little song, a little jingle. So we're using that. And hopefully for the evening milkings, I'll be able to put in some video of what I had done that day to kind of highlight some of the activities that we're doing. Absolutely, that was a fantastic milking. Fantastic. If I don't feed the pig before I start doing the milking, he gets all excited. He knows what's happening. He gets it. I've been feeding the milk the last 4 or 5 days, and he likes it. Oh, there goes. I think I'm going to take a sample of tonight's milking on this teat and check it for mastitis again. See what the level is. I checked 3 days ago, and it was recovering quite well. There was still a little bit of mastitis in the milk. That it doesn't strain out; it gets stuck to the filter. We filter through linens. And you can kind of tell, so the milk filters through, and any like dirt or crud that's stuck on, that falls into the milk, any mastitis, anything that won't filter through that linen shows up afterwards, so you can kind of get an idea. We wipe down the cow, so the idea is that there's very little of that, but it happens. especially if the cow is outside where it's dirty and muddy. They're spending lots of time in a wet paddock. We had that problem last spring before we were able to get them out in the fields and not do damage to the fields. But after everything had thawed out and it was just a big slush of mud. So there was a lot of washing involved before we could take the milk. But that's the advantage of being able to strain it out right away and get it cleaned up. We don't grain feed our cows either. So one of the issues that a grain-fed cow will have is that the bacteria in their feces is more damaging, or it's a worse bacteria than you might have otherwise, and that's what causes problems in milk and contamination. I mean, there's a lot of contamination possibilities, but the biggest one is grain-fed cows aren't meant to digest grain, and the grain ferments in their stomach, and that makes a bacteria. I'm not entirely sure which bacteria, E. coli or something, and then then the feces gets in the milk. Anyone who's done any milking, I mean, it's nearly impossible. You know, there's specks and dusts, and I wipe her down pretty good, but stuff falls in, and there's more than likely dried fecal matter on it, and that gets in the milk, and the bacteria gets in the milk, etc., etc. Typically, the bacteria isn't a harmful one. You strain it out quickly. It's a non-issue. You keep milk cold. That's important. But when grain-fed cows, their feces has a bacteria in it, that can be damaging. So, yeah, not good. So that was the milking this morning. Pretty quick. Definitely a good milking on the 3 quarters that I did milk. The mastitis quarter is milking out nice. The color looks really, really great. So I'm not too concerned about that. We'll do a test tonight. We'll get a real idea of what's left in terms of mastitis infection. I suspect it's very, very little, if anything. So yeah, so that's really good. I was a little worried about that when we first got it. Aside from that, it's going to be a busy day with chores. It's going to be a beautiful day. 16 degrees is what they're calling for. Quarter moon, we're in a half moon right now. So it should be a nice, clear night tonight as well. We've had stars the last few nights, which has been nice. Haven't had stars in a little while. It's been too cloudy and overcast, which is disappointing. So yeah, great. We'll get on with the chores, and we'll see you guys tonight. Cheers.